Hello everyone, I'm Marieanne, the Artsie Crafter. Welcome to my channel. If you saw my last video, you would know, if you haven't seen my last video, then you won't know that my husband and I are going on an overseas trip in a couple of weeks now. And I'm going to be making a travel journal for that to, record the memories of that trip. And because it's going to be a 7-week trip, I'm going to be making 2 separate journals because I think there'll be too much to put in just one journal and end up being far too bulky. So I've decided to make 2 journals. So this is the first one that I've done, and I thought I wanted to show you what it looked like, because now I'm going to be doing the second cover for the second journal. So here is it's a fabric cover that I went ahead and I painted the background, and then I painted on these continents, and I drew ink around the outside. So that's how I made those ones. And then I found some fabric to go on the front cover here, and these little symbols here that I got. I made this one on the internet, the little label on a vintage postcard, and these little symbols I got off the internet. And we're going with Holland America cruise line, so we're doing a 4-week cruise as part of the 7 weeks holiday. So I wanted this vintage, I thought it would be nice to have this little vintage card on the cover. And so that's that one. And then the next one, I forgot to show you the inside of this one. Here I just covered it in book pages, and then I grunged up the book pages with some inks. And I also made these pockets, and I can't find my card, so I'll just use this one. These, I folded the covers over, and I made little pockets on the front and the back. So that's what the inside looks like. It's all ready for me to sew the signatures inside. And so I'll set that one aside. I'll show you what I'm going to do on the spine in a minute. And this is the next cover I'm going to do. I'm doing it exactly the same way on the inside. And this is the outside cover that I did exactly the same way. But this time I've got these little bits and pieces that I'm going to put on the front here, and these bits I actually stuck together with glue first, because then I'm going to glue them to this panel on here, and then I'm taking this to my sewing machine and sewing around the outside of these panels, these paper panels here, or pieces of ephemera, and then I'll sew this with my sewing machine onto this background panel here. And then I'll sew this onto the cover. So there's a lot of sewing involved. But once I've got these panels all sewn together, I can then bring them back to my cover and position them in the correct place I need them to be on the front here. So that'll make my job easier. And then I'll tack it down with some glue so that it stays in position while I do sew it down. So it'll end up like something like that. And then on the spine here, I wanted to put something on the spine to cover my sewing when I sew the signatures in, but I'm not quite sure whether I want to do that now or not, because I made this sort of spine label. I don't know what you call them, but anyway, this is a spine label here, and I'll cut this out and put it on there. I did have an idea of sewing this on, but now that I've attached it to the cover, I won't be able to do that, especially if I wanted to sew the signatures in first. I wouldn't be able to sew that on, unfortunately. I thought it would have looked really neat if I could do that on the edges here, because there's some sewing there already. And the way I made this is I did this on the computer. I actually went and got a photograph of some belts, just some normal belts that you wear around the waist. And I took the image and I cut it in half where all the holes are, got rid of the part where the holes are, and then I flipped it over to make the other side, and then I put it together in the length that I needed for this spine area here. And then I just inserted, made up this label here for on the top of there, the Northern Europe Cruise 2023. And then because we've got part A and part B, so when it's in my bookcase, I can look at the spine and know exactly which book this is without having to take it out first. So that's my spine cover, because I'll cut this out before I put it on, but I just thought this is a bit of a different idea for a book spine. So I'll put that aside, and I will show you how I put all this together. It's a very simple process, and I just wanted to show you the separate panels first so that you get a better idea of what I'm talking about instead of just me describing it, because sometimes it's a bit harder to describe things than it is to actually show you the process. So first of all, I'll go and first of all, I will take this cover off and I'll do the inside, and while it's drying, then I can do sew these panels. So I can do this first, and the other thing I do is I've got this piece of stiff fabric here. I think it's the thing that the stiffener they put in collars and cuffs and that sort of thing that you buy at the haberdashery, and I just buy, you know, a meter of it or however, and I cut it up. It's easy to cut up, and I will use the fabric glue and glue that down first because I don't want that to show. So I'll go and do that now before I do anything else, and I'm using my fabric glue to do that. Okay, that's glued in, and then put that aside. I might keep that out because I'll need that. And I got a bit of a glue mat here, and I've got to use up all my scraps of book pages here that I've been collecting in my drawer, so I can use them up now. And it's just a matter of gluing them on. And this part here you won't see because it'll be covered up by the pocket, side pocket, so I can put scrappy pieces there, and I don't think about this too much. I'm just going to, and I've got these little glue sticks. I've got a ton of these that my husband brought home for me years ago actually, from somewhere. He was out with a client, and they had all these they were giving away. So anyway, so you can put these down because they're a bit old. They do get a bit gluggy, but they're still gluey, so they will still work. So I'll go ahead and I'll continue with this, and I'll come back and show you when it's finished. On this panel here, I will actually, I'll glue with the glue stick on this part, but when it comes to this area, I'll actually use fabric glue because the glue stick won't stick over this. Believe me, I know, I tried and it doesn't work. So, anyway, I'll continue with this, and I'll come back when I've finished. Okay, I've got all the inside of the cover covered and now I'm just going to grunge it up a little bit, and I've got my little mat here, and to take some inks. I'm using Vintage Photo, and dab it on. As much as I can, a little bit dried out, and then get some water, spray it on, just rub it over page. Oops. Keep going until get a decent amount on there. Okay, and I've got some other brown here. This one is brushed corduroy, so I'll wipe this off so don't contaminate the inks. And none of them want to come out. Must be a bit dry. I think. See what happens there. Oh, that's better. Getting a little bit more ink out. Just spread it around a bit. And do it a little bit more. It's looking a bit better. Squished off some of that paper where the glue is not quite dry. And I'll wipe this off again, and now this time I'll put some black on. Squish it out. Okay, I'll wipe that off so it's nice and clean. And then the last thing that I'm going to do for the inside, clean my desk off, is the trusty old coffee spray. So I'll spray that on. Got a bit there. Spray that around. Spray it around the edges, and then I'll go back. I did say that was the last bit. I want to do around the edges, so I'll just get my brushed corduroy ink and just ink around the edges. That I don't have to worry about the ends because that'll be covered over. It's just these areas here. Just grunge it up a little bit. If I wanted to, I could do these center where the spine edges are, but I won't. I'll just leave it as it is because it's still it's a bit wet there and a bit messy, so I'll leave that to dry. So there's my grungy inside, so I'll leave that to dry now, set that aside, and then while that's drying, I'll go and when I find my panel, it's buried under all the bits of paper. Okay, so now I can glue this, sew this on this panel, all these little bits of ephemera, and I'll sew that onto this panel and then this panel onto here. But to keep them in place, I'll just use some fabric glue to glue this onto the first panel. Okay. Now, I glued that down, and I might thought I'd show you me gluing it down to give you a better idea of what I mean by that. So I've tried not to glue around these edges too much, but I'm going to let this completely dry first before I do so around those edges, so that I'm not sewing through wet glue. And I will do the same when I do the next panel as well. So I'll come back and show you once I've done all that. I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, I've got it all sewn down. And that's what it looks like. Part B. And now it's just ready. Just trim off this little bit here. I can grab hold of it. There we go. And on the back, yes, got it on the back there. And we can put this in. If you get some little bits that come up, you can just re-glue them down. I'll wait till this is still a little bit wet. So the next thing I do is get a little bone folder and reinforce the folds on the spine. Just bend it up and press it down. As I said, this book page is still a little bit wet, but I want to reinforce these folds because I am going to be gluing fabric on the outside, so I don't want them to get lost. There we go. And they can dry. I'll spread it out flat when I'm finished, and that way it will help for the glue to dry completely. But now I want to get these creases nice and sharp. There we go. And now it's ready for the cover to go on. I just put them in exactly where I need it to be, like that. And as I said, I'm going to make these pockets on both sides, so make sure that I've got it all correct. It looks pretty good. Okay, so now I can just fold this out, and I'm going to glue one section at a time. But before I do that, one more little job that I like to do is, this is very shiny, and so to help the glue adhere to this surface, I'm going to get rid of some of that shine, and I've got a little piece of very fine sandpaper, so I just rub it over to get rid of some of that gloss. Doesn't take very long. There you go, cut down on some of that shine, and then I'll get a rag and get rid of all the dust. Get a lot of dust. Okay. Then one last little thing I do before I glue this down is that I'm going to get some, I'm going to use masking tape. These edges here, I know I've got the reinforcement on the inside, but I like to reinforce the outside a little bit as well, because this is just, you know, it's fairly cheap cardboard. So to make sure this never cracks up, I'm going to put some of this masking tape down. And I did have a bit that would go over both sides, but I can't find it at the moment, and I can't find the end of this, which is a bit ridiculous. Oh, there it is. No? Yes? Yes. Okay. I'll put that over that seam line. And you don't have to be accurate about this. Using a bone folder to make sure it sticks, and then I'll get the scissors and cut the excess off. go. And then I will do this again and make sure I've got the writing up the right way and the cover on the right way. It's always very important. Okay, get that back in position again. There we go. It's all ready to go now, and as I said, I will glue a section at a time. I'll glue down. And then I use the bone folder, squeeze out all that glue. And then the other side. Okay, now we've got the outside glued down. I can flip it over and we can do these pockets, inside pockets. Just burnish this down. And what I like to do is I put a bead of glue along this edge just to make sure that it will glue down. That, and then the top and bottom. And I stretch this over and squish it down like so. And the pocket. Okay, so that glue should stick down nice and firmly, and do the same on this end. Pull it over firmly, edge. Okay, there you go. The cover is now complete and ready for the signatures to be sewn in, and so that will be the next video. We'll be sewing in the signatures and finishing it all off. I'll just wipe that glue off before I forget. And so that's part B, and we'll show you the part A book again. There we go. So I think they're looking pretty snazzy as journal covers, travel journal covers. So thank you very much everyone for watching, and I wish everyone a happy crafty day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye everyone.